Back in December of 2022, I pre-ordered the Canon R6 Mark II. This was my replacement for the Canon R6. The R6 was the replacement for the EOS R. The EOS R was the replacement for the 6D. The 6D was the replacement of the T2i. Do you see a thread going on? There's a lot of progression. So through that progression, how big was it from the R6 to the R6 Mark II? It's quite big. It's huge. But before we discuss that, let's discuss my t-shirt. Can you tell I like Flock of Seagulls? Also, it reminds me of that bad lip sync video with Yoda. So for those of you who are new to this channel, I am Jared Hoyman. I am a real estate photographer here in Northeast Wisconsin. I shoot about 1,000 homes a year. That's totally to impress you by giving you that number, but also to give you an idea of how much I abuse these cameras. I use them all the time, and they're ultimately a tool. It's hard for me to use them for fun on the side, just like my drone. I don't, because they are my full-time job. But when I do get a chance, I try to use them for fun, and they're so enjoyable. The R6 Mark II is no exception to that. It does make me want to just get out and shoot, and I have been lately with this lens. I've been shooting it with the 70-200 RF f4. This thing is so light, and it just feels really good in the hands with this camera. But the 15-35 is actually the one that pretty much lives on this camera body. The 15-35 does stay on here most of the time, and once in a while I take it off to play around with some other lenses, but this is my moneymaker right here. And as an architectural photographer, I do not require that there needs to be more megapixels. If anything, if you saw my last video, I want them decreased. I usually bring them down to about 10 or 12 megapixels. Just because the R6 Mark II came out and I had the R6 didn't mean that, hey, I got to jump ship and go to the R6 Mark II. There was a lot of factors that had to take place. And one of them, which they did in the R7, and that's why the R7 is actually my studio camera right now on me, unlimited recording, no overheating issues. And when they did that in full frame with the R6 Mark II, that blew my mind. I did tests on this, and in 24 and 30 frames per second, I never had any overheating issues, and I had it go for hours upon hours, then plugged in, went over 4 hours, no overheating issues. Now, with 60 frames per second, that's a different story. I did have it overheat around 40 minutes. I'm only shooting 60 frames per second when I'm doing video walkthroughs of real estate property, and in post-production, that's being outputted at 24 frames per second. So I really do not need the 60 frames per second, and I've never had it overheat at a job where the R6 Mark I, if we want to call it that, overheated after 5-6 minutes in the sun, and I would then have to have it cool off, wait a while, and continue with my shoot. The R6 Mark II has been super reliable, not to mention that you're actually using the full length and width of the sensor for full frame and 60 frames per second, but it's being downsampled at 6K, and that makes it a lot sharper than the R6. The added feature that you're getting in here that you didn't have in the R6 is that you have a custom 1, 2, and 3, not just for photos like you had for the R6, but that custom 1, 2, and 3 now goes for video. I have made less user mistakes with the R6 Mark II than I did with the R6 because of these custom buttons for video and photo, and it's easier to switch over. The other awesome feature that the R6 Mark II has, which the R7 has as well, is a digital hot shoe on top, which allows me to use the Tascam XLR 2D, which now I have full XLR connections used on here. Gives you a digital connection, and just like the R7, it now is 24-bit audio, which gives you more leverage if you blow out with your XLR audio. You've got the dual card slots right there, which I'm telling you, you really shouldn't go with anything less. You need that redundancy. There's always going to be errors out there. Now, I want to bring you into the menu system, talk about a few things, and honestly, there's a few things that actually are very frustrating to me, and I think it could be fixed in a firmware update. All right, so one of the big differences between this and the R6 is the way you turn it on. It's not like a woman. Here you have it off. You can turn it on, go to lock right away or all the way on. It would be nice if this was on and this was lock. but you got to go all the way over to turn it on. Custom and automatic buttons over here. So we have the C1, C2, C3. What I like about the R6 and the R6 Mark II over the R5 and the R5C is the R5, the R5C, and the EOS R all have that LED screen that you're using. This is actually tangible buttons that you actually physically have to move, and you know they're in the place you want them to be. So my camera always lives on C1 because that's my custom for architectural photography and video. And speaking of video, right now you have a separate dial, which I actually love, that we're on camera mode, and then if we want to switch, we go over to video mode. So to give you an idea on how fast the camera actually turns on, we're going to turn it on right here. And then you have all your settings over here. And if you want to move it over to video mode, it's actually pretty quick. Check this out. And my C1 settings, it's giving you this warning under these settings, blah, blah, blah. There could be overheating because this setting for my custom one dial is actually 60 frames per second. The other thing to focus on in the screen is the fact that you can actually see where you're at. So right now it's at 32 millimeters, and just like the R7 does the same thing, as I adjust, we'll go wide, it's at 15 millimeters. So switching from video to photo is pretty easy and vice versa. So if we were to switch back, it's that quick, which makes it an ideal hybrid camera. So early on using this camera, I noticed a big glitch that I hope Canon can fix, and who knows, maybe they're actually watching this video. But if you're in a custom button like custom 1 right now, and I have this all customized specifically for photo, it's in photo mode, I'm bracketed right here, so you can see the 3 brackets there. If I go to click it, it's on a 3-second timer. There you go, it's all set. And then let's just say I'm gonna go do some video. I'm in my custom 1 for video. It's all set there, everything's working. And then I wanna go back to photo. All of a sudden, the brackets are gone. So I go to do that, and it's just 1. So for some reason, switching from photo to video and then back to photo while staying in custom 1, it actually gets rid of the whole bracketing. And therefore, the only way to fix that for me is to go into a different setting real quick. So I can go into bulb or manual and then go back. And then all of a sudden, I'm there again, and it's all set for the 3 bracketed. I would like to see that fixed. That is kind of annoying because I'm going back and forth as a real estate photographer and videographer, and I like these custom settings to remain how I set them originally. Okay, so let's go into the menu system. It's not gonna look too much different than any other menu system with Canon, but if we go over right to menu, and we'll start here. So you've got the image quality, so I always shoot in RAW. Dual pixel RAW, I have never used it. I don't have a desire to use it, but hey, that could be another video. Cropping ratio, so we're in full frame. We can move it over to a 1.6. So if I use a crop lens on here, I can move it over to 1.6, or it'll automatically read it out, and then we could be shooting in that crop sensor. The biggest advice I can give anybody who has a camera with Wi-Fi or Bluetooth is to always be on airplane mode unless you really need to use the Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, because if you are not using Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, it is draining your battery fast. So I live in airplane mode most of the time. That is my highest recommendation because your battery will last a lot longer if you put airplane mode on. Now, every day after a shoot and I transfer all my photos over, I do go into formatting a card, and then I will hit format. I'm not going to do it because I actually have photos on this card right now. And then I format the first card. I leave the second card. I usually keep the second card as a backup for at least a week. And then when I know all my photos have been delivered to my clients and they've been satisfied, I then wipe both of them and start from scratch all over again. The number 1 card, I transfer everything over, and then I wipe at the end of the day. The 2, I just keep it for at least a week until my clients have been satisfied. So really, when it comes down to the feel and ergonomics, it feels pretty similar to the R6, but the R6 Mark II does offer a lot more buttons on here. It also has this joystick here, which allows you to select autofocus points a little bit faster and to kind of scan your images after looking at them. There's the HDMI micro out right there, the USB-C, which you can connect power right there. So whether it's gonna be plugged in or a power brick would work as well. And then right here, you have your microphone and your headphone. Now I'm using the Tascam XLR2D, so I do not need to use the microphone most of the time unless I'm doing run and gun and doing a lav mic, but this is usually not used much at all. So same LP-E6NH battery that all the other Canon cameras in this realm use, and there are other options that are now coming out as a third party that are going to be better options that are going to give you more power longer, and they offer USB-C charging right on the battery itself. So if you cannot get it plugged in time and you're on the go, plug it in with your car adapter and now you're charging this thing in about 2.5 hours. I'll be doing a review on one of those soon, so stay tuned. Balancing this camera on my Zune Crane 2S has been amazing. It just balances very well, and the colors that come out for the video, especially in the 60 frames per second, have been far better than the Canon R6 and anything prior to that. Now, this is a 6K image downsampled to 4K, but you can get 6K RAW with the Atomos Ninja V or the V Plus, which I do have. I have played around with, and I do say that I have not done it a lot because, well, I find it too noisy to even play with, and I don't feel like doing a video on it. Maybe eventually when I get more patience, I will do a video on the 6K raw footage on here, but I would have really liked it if Canon offered a 6K non-raw version on here that we could do in C-Log 3, because that would be a lot easier for most of us. But I find the raw to be too difficult to use and too noisy. And eventually, maybe I'll get more patience, I'll learn it, and then I'll eventually just teach you a better route to go, because right now, it's just not worth my time. I'd rather do the 4K 24 frames per second or the 4K 60, and those images with the color blow away any other Canon camera that I've used in the past. So I have to say that this is the best hybrid camera that I've ever used. Video production, photo production, the images are awesome on both ends of it. And I would highly recommend this if you're teetering on both sides of the world. Even if you're just doing photos, now this gives you the option of having excellent video. If you want excellent video, you have the option of excellent photo as well. I am going to leave a link below where you can purchase this through B&H or through Amazon. Either one's good. It does help support this channel, and it keeps me doing more reviews like this for you. But honestly, I would highly recommend it. Shooting 1,000 homes a year, I need the best quality camera, and this is it. This is the best I can have for what I need, and it does the job for video and for photo. If you found this video helpful, hit that thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, because I'm gonna be doing some more reviews on camera gear, lenses, and hopefully some cameras in the future. If you want to see more videos on the R6 Mark II and testing compared to the R7 and the R6, well, check out these videos here. It may help you make a better decision if you're going to go into the R6 Mark II realm.